morning.
Good morning. I'd like to call the Community Services meeting for June 16th, 2020 to order. If we can get a roll call, please.
Ms. Weber? Ms. Weber?
Present.
Ms. Parker?
Present.
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 Ms. Polk?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Present.
Mr. Snipes?
Present.
Ms. Peters?
Present.
Ms. Dunbar?
Present.
Mr. Fairfield? Mr. Zenz? Mr. Carrico?
Present.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Present.
Mr. Featherling? Ms. DiColo? Mr. Kirkstra?
Present.
Mr. Wheeler?
Present.
Mr. Searoy?
Present.
We have a quorum.
Alrighty. And no public comment or announcements today. I'd sent out an email this morning to all board members about the new legislation that was signed. So every vote is a roll call vote while we're doing this over Zoom. Every single one. So I apologize in advance for the tedious nature of this. So I have approval of the minutes for May 19th, 2020. Is there a motion?
Eckhoff.
Polk.
Eckhoff with the first and Polk with the second. Any questions? Otherwise, roll call vote, please.
Ms. Weber?
Present.
Ms. Parker?
Yes. Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Under County Clerk Dan Hendrickson, he has his monthly report. Is there a motion to accept?
Parker.
So moved.
Parker with the first, Mr. Snipes with the second. Any questions about that report?
Mm-mm.
Roll call vote, please.
Ms. Weber?
Aye.
Ms. Parker?
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
Aye.
Ms. Peters?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Oop. Sorry about that. You were muted.
She has to unmute herself.
You're muted on your end, Ms. Dunbar. There we go. Oop.
Yep.
You're still on mute on your end, Ms. Dunbar? We'll circle back while you get that.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Okay. Dan, did you have something?
Yeah, actually, I just wanted to provide some updates on information. From the 6-month report that you just voted on and accepted, compared to last year's figures, our numbers are actually up about 6%. So the lockdown didn't seem to have a significant effect on what we took in, or at least for that 6-month period. But the main thing I wanted to talk to you today about was the general election. Senate Bill 1863 on Friday was sent to the governor's desk. It's expected that he'll sign it. The most significant impact that you're going to see from that is that vote by mail applications will be sent to every registered voter in the county. Those will go out in the mail August 1st. The voters will need to fill those out, send those back in, and then we will mail them ballots. Those ballots would go out approximately September 24th. We will have teams of 3 judges processing those ballots when they come back. They'll be checking for voter signatures compared to what's on the voter registration file and processing those ballots. Another thing I wanted to talk about is election judges. We are in need of election judges. We had sent out a survey about a month ago, and about 1/4 of the judges that responded to that said that they aren't going to work anymore. Certainly, I'm sure that the fears of the coronavirus, COVID-19, play a heavy impact on that. But those judges that will be working, and we've sent out notices to the elected and appointed precinct committeemen to help us find judges. We're going to push for online training for those. We will have training sessions later on in the fall. Those will probably be done off-site at probably KCC, but we don't have that firmed up yet. We also have to have training on our equipment, on our poll pads and our touch screens, and we'll look to manage that the best that we can. If we can do it here, great. If not, we may have to go off-site and do that, maybe rent a building to do those training classes. Next month, I will be bringing to you some polling places that we'll need to change. The polling place at Uncle Leo has requested that we not be there anymore. And also the Kankakee County Housing Authority has requested that we find another location. Today, we're going to go look at the Quality Inn as a potential polling place. And tomorrow, we're going to look at Youth for Christ. And we're also going to be looking next week at the hospice building. We had 2 polling places at American Lutheran on Career Center Road. We combined that for the primary election, but we're going to see if hospice will be available as a polling place for November. One of the things with 1863, Senate Bill 1863, is that it does declare a state holiday for this year only. So all state buildings will be closed. All schools will be closed. I don't know. I haven't spoken to Chairman Wheeler and if he's given any thought to closing this building down on election day or not. But we'll also need to be in search of a vote center on election day where anybody in the county could go vote. There's a couple sites that we're looking at, and I'll have more information for you in the July meeting. If anybody has any questions, I'd be happy to answer them to the best of my ability.
Anyone?
I have one, Dan. With these voter by mails, a lot of times, I know with me, my signature varies. So how and what do you have in place if the signatures don't look like they match? Are you all calling the person or something, or is it, how is that going to happen?
That's a very good question. The team of 3 judges, when they're comparing the signatures, all 3 of them have to agree that there's something not right about the signature. Once all 3 say, yeah, that signature doesn't match, then we do send notification to the voter to say, we've received your ballot, the signatures don't match, and allow them to say, you know, fill out an affidavit, say, yeah, that was me, I filled it out, send it back in to us, or to in any way remedy the situation. So yes, notification will be sent to the voters.
Okay, now the second question is this going to happen before election day so that your office is not having to count days after when they receive the mail back?
We will be counting ballots after election day. Anything that's received, postmarked by election day and received up to 2 weeks afterwards is still a viable ballot. So in that instance where that notification goes out, and the notification needs to be sent out within 2 business days of us receiving the ballot, if it's question on the signature, that still gives the voter time to rehabilitate any potential issues with it. So the 17th is when we will have certified results.
Okay.
I have a question, Dan.
I have a question for you.
Just real quick, but they have to be postmarked before Election Day.
On election
Or on
day.
Election Day, excuse me.
Yes.
Okay.
So anything that's postmarked November 4th or beyond, we cannot accept.
Got it. Other
Dan, can I
questions?
have a question?
Sure, yes. Mr. Carrico, I believe?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dan, what are the qualifications for a location to be assigned as a polling place?
Qualifications to be an election judge?
The requirements for that.
Well, actually, one of the new things with this legislation is that 16-year-olds can serve as election judges for this election only. Now, we've had a pretty robust program where we've worked with the high schools to get juniors and seniors that are in good standing to serve as election judges. They get the day off from school and get paid. But, you know, as far as beyond that, as far as, you know, people beyond 16 or 17, 18-year-olds registered to vote, they just need to be a registered voter. They need to declare their party affiliation, and they need to take our training. Like I said, we have an online training program. It takes about 3 hours to complete.
What would be the requirements for a place to become or be qualified as a
Polling place, we try to look at publicly accessible buildings. I know that Quality Inn, you know, does have Oliver's, and they sell alcohol in that portion. However, we can, you know, keep that to a meeting room on the side where they don't have alcohol, and I think we're okay. Just really looking at public buildings that are accessible, that would be able to handle the potential hundreds of voters that we would have during the course of the day.
Okay, thank you.
ADA.
ADA compliant, yes.
Anyone else?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Seroy.
thank you. Thank you, sir. Dan, how much with this new Senate bill and who's sponsoring that Senate bill is my first question. And then how much more is that going to cost your department to hold the election?
Good questions. I don't have a solid answer on yet. We're going to be sending those postcards out through a nonprofit stamp, so the cost for the postcard should be 20 cents a piece. Don't hold me to that figure. The state has also let us know that grant monies will be available, and I will know tail end of next week, the first part of July, how much money will be available for us to offset some of these costs. I don't believe that we will receive enough money to offset all of our costs, our COVID-related costs. I just spent $400 on floor decals last week so that we could maintain social distancing. That would be covered under the grant, but I don't know how many of those other expenses we'll be able to do, and I don't want to make any significant purchases until I know exactly how much money we're going to be getting from the state.
Okay.
Dan, is 60,000 voters?
It is based, they do have different steps. So the step that we're in is the 10,000 to 100,000 voters. Starts at, the base on that is $10,000. I don't know.
And are you sending to every registered voter?
We will be sending a postcard to every registered
And that's
voter.
about 60,000 here?
64,000.
About 12 grand cost on mailing.
For the initial mailing.
For the initial mailing, yeah.
The ballots themselves, currently we will send out a ballot, and it's about $3 a piece for us to mail a ballot.
Does the ballots get sent out certified, or how do you know who receives the ballot?
The application will not be, neither the application nor the ballot will be sent certified. But we're looking at the signatures on the certification envelope when they send it back to us for comparison to the voter registration signature.
How many other states are passing legislation like this?
I know that there's a couple states that already do all of their elections vote by mail. But as far as states that are sending out applications to voters, I couldn't give you a good answer on that.
All right, thank you.
one other question.
Yes, sir.
Spoken. The initial ballot that's being sent out is going to probably cost us $12,800. So, but there will be additional costs if we have to verify the signature. So that cost comes up. I would be interested in knowing, you know, what it is that they're going to reimburse us, and if there's a opportunity to maybe have them amend that cost to reflect reality when you know what that cost is. That's just a comment.
I can't speak to the will of the General Assembly.
Any other questions for Dan? Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Moving on, Assessor Eric Blair, he has his monthly report. Is there a motion on the floor on that one?
So moved.
Peters,
Let's see, Ms. Peters, Mr. Snipes second. Any questions regarding the report? Let's do a roll call and then we'll get Eric in and to answer or give his presentation.
Excuse me, Ms. Weber? Ms. Weber? She might be frozen. Okay. Ms. Weber?
We'll try it again. You just keep coming in and out, Carol. I apologize.
I'll come back around.
Yeah.
Looks like
Ms. Parker?
Is she muted?
Muted.
Ms. Parker, can you
Aye.
Ms. Polk?
Aye.
Mr. Snipes?
aye.
Ms. Peters?
aye.
Ms. Dunbar?
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield?
Aye.
Mr. Carrico?
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff?
Aye.
Mr. Featherling?
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Alrighty, motion carries. How are we handling Ms. Weber? Is it not a non-vote in that situation?
Aye.
Aye, okay.
She did
All right, she
in
did
the
get it
last
in,
one, yeah.
okay.
Aye.
Gotcha.
Aye.
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 Alrighty,
Aye.
Eric, did you have anything?
Aye.
Yes, sir. Just had a few things for you guys
Okay.
this morning.
Okay.
First, I wanted to give a little bit of a commendation to my staff. They've done a great job during this time of when tax bills are collected. The first installment is always a really busy time, a lot of hustle bustle on the phone and over the counter, things like that. They've done a tremendous job of dealing with that. And of course, we've got about another week yet until the first installment is due next Wednesday. So thanks to the staff for taking care of everything like they do, and we'll continue to work through that until that is completed. Beyond that, I did want to let the committee know that we did receive our 2019 detailed sales list with the sales ratio study from the Department of Revenue late in the day on Friday, June 5th. So right at the beginning of the day on June 8th, on Monday, we certainly started to work on that very hard to try to make sure that we got everything into the state. I communicated everything to the assessors so that they had an opportunity to weigh in on sales that they wanted to contest one way or the other, in or out of the study. Gave them until that Thursday, the 11th, to let us know what those sales were. I transmitted everything to the state on the 11th, on Thursday the 11th, and I'm still awaiting them to give us a certified study for 2019, which would let us get a full picture of the 3-year study. So, but I would expect that anytime now, whether it be today or tomorrow or in the very short term, that's for sure. Also, I wanted to mention that I did set up the Farmland Assessment Review Committee meeting. That's going to be held on Friday, June 26th at 10 a.m. in the fourth floor boardroom there. It'll give us plenty of room to spread out and socially distance ourselves so that we can have that meeting and get through it for the year. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on real quick, Steve Lear had brought up at the most recent executive committee meeting the passage of Senate Bill 685, which was signed into law and became Public Act 101-635, which allowed for counties to automatically grant certain homestead exemptions. If they had it in 19, we can go ahead and do that for 2020 because of COVID. And those three exemptions are the disabled persons exemption, the disabled veterans exemption, and the senior assessment freeze. So we're working through the process of granting those exemptions in 2020 without even an application. I think that was done in good faith to try to make sure that those that are at most risk don't necessarily have to come in and put themselves in any more peril than they need to be. And so our office is aware of that, and we're gonna try to work through and get those things new. Things that are pending that we haven't completed yet that we're looking for. Of course, like I said, I'm going to have that Farmland Assessment Review Committee meeting on Friday the 26th. And this time of year, we're always awaiting the return of township assessment books. And so that will lead us into the supervisor of assessments level and get us toward the ability to publish and notify and all those kinds of things. So that's what I had for you this morning. I'll entertain any questions if you have any.
Anything for Mr. Blair?
Just one question, just for the purpose of clarification, because I get this question asked a lot. Because of the variable differences between what a senior citizen is, some do from 55 to 68, could you, for the purposes of your office, just verify what the age of a senior citizen is to qualify for whatever tax freeze or any other benefits that's available to seniors?
Yes, that's a great question, because that is kind of a nebulous age depending on who's determining that. So for the statutory purpose of our exemptions, it is the age of 65.
Could we lower that to 64?
You can certainly petition your Congress people and see what would happen there.
I think I can wait a year. Thank you. Sorry.
Mr. Seroy? Oh, he was waving at somebody else, sorry.
Me.
Anyone else have a question? I'm sorry.
John Featherling.
Mr. Featherling?
Yeah, I had a question, Eric, about the discount that you give for the senior citizens. The income restrictions are very low on that. Is there a change in that in the works, or anybody trying to change that?
Sure. So there's two different senior citizen exemptions. One is your basic senior citizen exemption, which is a $5,000 reduction of the assessed value. And the only qualification there is that you are owner of the property, you reside in the property, and you are 65 years old. And then I think what you were referring to is the second part of the senior exemption, the tier of exemptions that apply to seniors, which is the senior assessment freeze. And the income limitation is $65,000 or less. Now, I will tell you that I started in this field back in 2002. That threshold used to be 35,000. It's grown over the years, all the way now to 65,000. Cook County has it at 75. Usually that's a precursor to us in the other counties that at some point it's going to move to a different number, to maybe that 75. But until I get confirmation from Springfield that the change is made, we certainly move forward with the 65,000 at least for the year.
Okay, I just thought maybe they were gonna change it if they changed everything else so far.
To this point, no, but it could certainly happen, that's for sure.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Sounds good. Hey, thanks, Eric. Have a great day.
Thanks a lot. Take care, folks.
Thank you.
All right. Moving on, the recorder, Lori Gadboy, we have her monthly report. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Snipes, second. Mrs. Polk. Without any questions, a roll call, please.
Ms. Weber,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
Aye.
Ms. Peters,
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar, Mr. Fairfield,
Aye.
Mr. Carrico,
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff,
Aye.
Mr. Featherling,
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
Morning, Lori.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning.
Good morning.
Morning.
I really have nothing new to report. It's just been business as usual here in the office. Is there any specific questions from anyone?
How is the, I guess, the market on real estate in the county as far as, are you seeing any uprising from them having to, from remuneration going into your office, or is it on a downscale? During this pandemic, how do you weigh, the market at this time?
Actually, we're seeing things moving up, and we're seeing a lot more home sales, commercial sales for sure. If you look at the back of your spreadsheet page, that gives you like some monthly numbers and year-to-date numbers, you'll see that things are pretty consistently moving up. We're getting a lot of refis because of the low interest rates, which that's another good thing too. So.
Thank you.
Any other questions for Lori? Hearing none? Thanks, Lori. Have a great day. Appreciate it.
Thank you. You all too.
Thank you.
Moving on to animal control, we have a monthly report from Carrie Laird. Is there a motion to approve that?
I make a motion.
Mr. Kirkstra, a second.
Second.
Mrs. Polk. All right, yeah, Ms. Polk is the second. We can get into questions. All those in favor say aye.
No, roll call.
Roll call. See, you do pay attention. I don't. Roll call, please.
Ms. Weber,
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
Aye.
Ms. Peters,
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar, Ms. Dunbar,
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield,
Aye.
Mr. Carrico,
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff,
Aye.
Mr. Featherling,
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler,
Aye.
motion carries.
Alrighty, Carrie, good morning.
Morning. So looking at the report, you can see that the revenue is low as predicted last month, but overall for the year, we're still high, or higher, I should say. Looking at the revenue for May of this year so far, it started to come back up. A lot of that is because of the registration for the tags is lower because the vet's offices were doing less patients, and so registration had come in lower at that time. So other than that, there's not much to report unless anybody has any questions.
Any questions from the committee?
I have one, I guess.
We'll start with Todd, then we'll go to Mrs. Weber second. We'll see if we
Thank
can
you,
get that
Mr.
to work.
Chairman. Good morning, Carrie.
Good morning.
Have you approached, or you or the sheriff approached the mayors about the price that you were going to charge the communities as an average price? I know you talked about that a few months ago, doing that. I don't know if the whole COVID thing kind of put a damper in that process, but I've talked to a couple local trustees, and they're still interested in that option of, you know, an average price rather than a price per service.
Absolutely, yes. We are still interested in doing that as well. We have not gotten to talk to the mayors because of COVID. We have not been able to do that, but I know that a few of the mayors have approached the sheriff and myself, and villages have also are still interested in that as well. So it's something that we still plan on doing. I don't think it'll benefit everybody in the county.
Awesome. Thank you.
Mrs. Weber?
I wonder if you can hear me? Can you hear me?
It comes and goes,
Can you
yeah.
hear me? Okay. The question was, I just wanted to be sure that there were 59 animals handled, but your inventory is down to 5 dogs and 3 cats. Is that right?
Yes, so animals handled is animals that have come into the shelter or returned to their owners or have been transported to other rescues. But at that time, the end of the month, we only had 5 dogs and 3 cats in the shelter. And currently there are about 5 dogs and 4 cats in the shelter. So we've been fortunate enough to have the rescues come and take the animals and adopt them out from their facilities.
Very good.
I had a question. How's it going with the relationship with all of our shelter partners? I know that was something that was a transitional thing. It seemed like it was going very well. I'm sure we built on that. I don't know if there was a report there. I haven't heard anything negative. So sometimes it's like going to a restaurant. As long as they don't complain, you know, everything was okay. So I was just curious if what your feeling is there.
So we had one meeting, and that was, I want to say, in January before everything happened. And we did discuss having another meeting, but then everything with COVID happened, so we have not been able to do that. The Humane Foundation has taken quite a few dogs from us, so they have called when we have dogs available, and we have had sent some there that way. We actually, their director there, and I speak probably once or twice a week regarding animals in our county. As far as other rescues in the area, we do speak with them as well. We don't have a whole lot of interaction with them, only because Humane and we deal with more dogs. The other ones deal with more cats, and they're kind of full with cats at this time. River Valley and we deal with dogs as well, and so we've transported some out there too.
Okay. I did have another question about building repairs. Are we through that cycle of, you know, fixing the holes in the walls and taking care of the mouse problems in the filing cabinets and all the things we kind of smiled about? The bathroom renovation, is that all concluded?
Unfortunately, no. I have put in a work order, and Wes did come out there with Bill, and they have a list of the repairs that I have asked for, but not much has been done on that end, only because I know that they were possibly busy doing other things during COVID. But since then, the 2 maintenance guys have come out, and they have looked at putting fence up for us to have a place for the animals to run. But as far as the other repairs in the building, no, that has not been done yet.
Okay. Well, it seems like we have enough money in the IPTIP, the building fund, to cover these off. So with a lot of room to spare. So I think that a fence for an outside area for the animals is entirely appropriate. I'm sure Tinker and Carol would agree. You've got to have runs outside and places for people to take their prospective adoptive animals and run them around, if you will.
And we have the fencing at the building, the property on 45. The fencing is already there. Just the putting it up is the only thing that we're waiting on. And they just came out this last week to look at it.
Sure.
Good.
Okay.
Good.
Any other questions from the committee? Well, thanks for all your hard work, Carrie, and the transition. It seems like it's going very well out there, and it'll only get better. Especially as Todd said, we get these municipalities on board, and we could become at least a 3 shifts until midnight type organization to start with. That's a goal.
Absolutely.
That's a goal, is to be out there
It is.
responding until for first, second, and third shift for sure. So
Right.
awesome. Thanks again. Have a great day.
Thanks, you too.
Moving on. The Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. It's your monthly update. You doing that one, Ms. Parker?
I am. Yes, we are anxious to get back in the meeting room and continue with our business. I will kind of piggyback on what Carrie said. I had a nice little meeting the other day with one of the shelter people, and from what she told me, she is very, very, very pleased with animal control and the relationship that they have now with Carrie and the sheriff. They're very happy. So we're ready to go. We're ready to move on, and hoping we can get back into the meeting room at the sheriff's department.
We'll know that the Zoom meeting capability is always there for you.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
that's always there, and it might be time to get that back going, especially since the numbers, inventory-wise, are so low at a lot of the shelters. It gives
Now-
people a chance to take a breath and then plan, because I'm sure it won't always be like that. It's just the nature of
Exactly.
the beast, no pun intended, but
Chairman, will we have to come into the county building and have Jason set up the public meeting?
no, it's all done on Zoom.
Okay,
At
so we
least-
can do that without having to come in and have it televised, is that
Right,
correct?
because it's a subcommittee. It will not be televised. It will just
Okay.
be using Zoom, and you could run that from your home.
Okay, great. I can set that up then.
Yeah, work with Kelly on that. She'll definitely,
I will
and I'm
do
sure
that.
the group is ready to get back at it,
Oh, we're ready. We're ready.
pulling on the chain as they speak, as they say. Sorry,
Yes.
it was right there. Any other thoughts about AWAC from the group? Great, thank you so much. Moving on then, any new or old business from the group for community services? Alrighty, hearing none. Where's Mr. Hess when you need him? Is there a motion
I
to
make a
adjourn?
motion we close.
There we go. There's Mr. Kirkstra. I'll take that. He's assuming the role. Second,
Peters.
Mrs. Peters. All those in favor say aye.
No.
Oh,
Roll call.
roll call.
Roll call.
Can't even do it for the easy ones. You got to do it for all of them.
Ms. Weber,
Just wait.
Aye.
Ms. Parker,
Aye.
Aye.
Ms. Polk,
Aye.
Mr. Snipes,
Aye.
Ms. Peters,
Aye.
Ms. Dunbar,
Aye.
Mr. Fairfield, Mr. Carrico,
Aye.
Mr. Eckhoff,
Aye.
Mr. Featherling,
Aye.
Mr. Kirkstra,
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler.
Aye.
Motion carries.
We are done. Have a great